Southwest Airlines. Now, y'all know, I truly can't wait for the next reading of the viewer comments to get me calmed down, because this is gonna get me amped all the way up. Guess what? I'm already up in the air right now over Southwest Airlines. So if you weren't directly impacted, you probably heard about the Southwest Airlines cancellations. Let's break this down for you. Exactly how many flights were canceled? So glad you asked. Since December 22nd, Southwest Airlines has canceled more than half of its typical flight schedule. And by late Wednesday, about 87% of all canceled flights in the US were from Southwest alone. 87% of all canceled flights were from one airline. You heard me correctly, that is it. Thank you, CNN. That is thousands of flights, more than 2,500, with over 500,000 people impacted. The reason for the delay started with the winter storm. Now let me pause right here, Wise. I'm gonna just let you jump in here before we even get going. They didn't know the storm was coming. We have more technology than any generation before us, and they didn't know. They didn't know. The Federal Department of Transportation didn't know. Nobody knew that this storm was coming. Wise, really? I just can't with that one.
I mean, that seems ridiculous. There's no way to not know that something is at least possible, and that you should prepare for the worst case scenario. That's what any prudent company, corporation would have done, specifically in a time like this where the most people are traveling. Like this is not a surprise. It's not like a special holiday season where it's like, oh my God, like people are traveling this holiday season. No, this is what people do during the December holidays. They travel, go see family and loved ones. That's just a fact of life, and they do so in droves. Like this is, all of this was predictable.
Wise, I just can't. You know, surprise, surprise, surprise. People are traveling over the Christmas holiday. Who knew? I mean, who knew?
Unbelievable.
That's just what happened in 2022. Because before 2022, nobody was traveling during the holiday, baby. Or maybe they were just going by train and automobile. Maybe that's what it was. They weren't flying before 2022.
They were on that midnight train to Georgia.
Oh shit, we just got this stuff to keep from jacking somebody up. And I know the people who are stranded, the people who've been on hold for hours want to jack some folks up. I get it. It is a legitimate, and I mean a legitimate human response. So it was the winter storm, but Southwest uses outdated software as well that lost track of all planes and employees. You know what? I would throw my papers right now. They use an outdated system that lost track of all planes and employees. I mean, we can't make this stuff up. Are you serious? Some folks need to be fired, starting with that CEO. How do you use in 2022, not 1922, 2022, using outdated software when you made money hand over fist? You got a bailout from the taxpayers of this country, of this nation, and this CEO makes $9 million a year. Yet they lost track of employees and airplanes. Somebody needs to be fired. I'm just gonna take a gamble. To who should that person be? Inquiring minds want to know. Y'all got me all amped up on this. Southwest scheduling system that hasn't changed since 1990s. 2020. So let me put this. Let me dress this up for you. They are using a system that is not 21st century ready. Plain and simple, Southwest Airlines. And here's a look at the flights that were canceled this week. Take a closer look at how Southwest compares to other airlines. And you see it, and you see Southwest in that dark, deep purple. Everybody else managed to be okay, but not Southwest Airlines. Houston, we do have a problem, and it is with Southwest Airlines this time around. So when you look up in the dictionary, yeah, who really bumped this up the most? for this moment, it's Southwest Airlines. These cancellations, though, had a horrific impact on a whole bunch of folks. I know some of the people personally who this had an impact on. I bet everybody knows somebody that's gonna tell them a good story about how Southwest Airlines messed up their travel plans despite the weather. It is December. Mother Nature is doing what Mother Nature does, coupled with climate chaos. Okay? So customers were left with few options: be stranded or pay on another airline. Now don't get me started on this, because baby, if I were the president of the United States, if I were the Secretary of Transportation, people would be in my office. I mean, first of all, this wouldn't happen because we were pre-planned for this, but I'm jumping ahead. Wise, I'm jumping ahead. To be completely, honest here, there's a domino effect to this. And so while Waz and I are having some light moments about this serious situation, just imagine if you're the people that are stranded in airports hour after hour, or if you scraped up your last few dimes, or if you budgeted, maybe you got more than a few dimes, but you budgeted for this travel, and to find out you can't even, they don't even give you a refund, I'm told. They give you a credit to fly on Southwest again. I mean, who in their right minds after this would want to get a credit to fly on Southwest again? Southwest, you need to refund people's money. And the Department of Transportation needs to ensure that you refund people's money. They don't want no credit. They want to be able to choose another airline. Let's put this up. People's lives are likely going to be ruined by the Southwest meltdown. And it was a meltdown, David. You got that right. I don't think that that's hyperbole at this point. People spend everything they can spare to fly their families home for the holidays. Now they're stuck stranded, choosing between missing work or paying prices they can't afford for walk-up fares. That's another thing. All these, don't leave that graphic up. None of these airlines, all of these airlines should do something for the people. And under these circumstances, because they got bailed out, they should say, you know what? Because these are extraordinary circumstances, we're gonna do something extraordinary. We're not gonna charge people walk-up fares. But let me go in, because David has a good tweet. I'm just all up in his tweet. In a country where 40% of the people would struggle to cover a $400 emergency, it seems safe to assume people are going to empty their savings or take on punishing debt to get home or cope with a week being stranded. They even hit the nail on the head on that. And people should be able to go and see their families during the holidays, and they shouldn't have to be among the ultra wealthy to be able to do it. The problem with this country is that we, the collective, some folks, not we, some folks think that working class people don't deserve to have high quality of life. They just don't. And so this is nothing but another walk in the park for some of these folks who have no compassion or empathy that people are suffering in this moment. I'm preaching the gospel right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that the misorganization starting at the top, the corporate greed, is having adverse effects on customers and of course employees. We know they laid off their staff to the damn bone. So, they try their best to run a skeleton crew in order to maximize profits. In times where they did have profit surpluses, instead of reinvesting in infrastructure in the company, new technology that would have helped them avert this crisis, they decided to do stock buybacks. And then of course, a global pandemic hits, so their coffers are completely empty because they wanted to make shareholders whole as soon as possible. They come with their handouts to the US government. Did Joe Manchin and his buddies say, hey, we want to tie this stuff to certain conditions. We need means testing. We want to audit these guys to hell. We want to have control over the way they spend this money. These guys are irresponsible. Did they get the spiel about, well, you should have 3 months rent worth of savings in your bank account as a corporation? No, of course not. Of course not. And then we see that again, like just because their technology is outdated, It's an outdated way of tracking flights and tracking pilots and staff in real time. They're the only company who saw these major, cancellations here in LA, Los Angeles, Southern California. Southwest is huge. I talked to multiple friends who were visiting family all up and down the coast who had to fend for themselves as far as getting back to Los Angeles after the holiday. And that's just people I know. I can't even imagine the horror stories, but none of this should be surprising to anybody who pays attention to this.
Not at all. The geniuses at the helm, bunch of geniuses.